G'day and welcome to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Rosie Burrows, and I'm on a journey to find my freedom so that I can help you do exactly the same. Join me each week as I share the stories of everyday people who have found their own paths to freedom. I'm not going to focus on job titles and accolades because I don't care about that stuff, and neither should you. I want to uncover what truly makes you tick. Who are you when you step away from society's expectations and follow your heart? I still haven't figured it out yet. Have you? Either way, buckle up because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. It's a hot and sunny day here in Australia, and joining me is Carol Kabaale, all the way in South Africa. She's got a really interesting story to share with us. She went from the corporate grind, working in hospitality, 9 to 5, but really more than 9 to 5, and is now on her third marketing agency that she has built from the ground up. I can't wait to dive into this. Carol, welcome to the show.
Ooh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Rosie. Oh my gosh, this is going to be fun. I can feel it.
It is going to be fun. But Carol, to start, I'd love to kind of dive into your story a bit. Even before you were working in hospitality, like what were you like growing up? Were you the good little girl? Were you the rule breaker? Who was Carol back in the day?
Oh, Carol was like such a good child.
Yeah.
Shame. She was such a good girl. Very praised orientated. Carol was a very nice child, very sweet child, soft-spoken child, but very outgoing child. I was always very confident. I was always the one who, would, when someone said, hey, can you do a dance for us? Like, your parents are like, Carol, come upstairs, come do this thing. I'm like, it's no problem. I can do it. Got confidence for it. Chilled vibes. So that was me. I grew up with my mom. I grew up with my mom and dad, and then my parents got divorced. Mm-hmm. So then I lived with my mom. I went to an only girls school, which I didn't even know that was a thing. If you've ever been to an only girls school, you know what I'm about to say. It's like the jungle out there.
Oh, God.
It's like Mean Girls on steroids. It's survival of the fittest. Girls are ruthless. So, yeah, that's where I grew up. I went to an only girls school. It's very traditional school, lots of like values and things like that. And I didn't really find my tribe at school. Although I was very confident in myself, I found always being on the outskirts of things. I wouldn't call myself like, a traditional nerd. I was pretty cool, but
yeah,
I was
okay.
No, I was cool. I was definitely cool, but I wasn't the coolest girl. I wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was like top 10, but I was in the group, I made the team. Definitely made the team. Yeah, and fun things about me back then is like, I really just wanted to fit in. Looking back on it now as an adult, because sometimes I can't even, like, am I really an adult? But looking back on it, I'm like, I can't believe I wanted to fit in so much with, no offense to them. If you're listening, I'm sure you're lovely people, but to people who really, I wouldn't, give them the time of day now. I just feel like I've grown so much that I don't need that validation from people who I never needed it from. Back then, I didn't know that. Obviously, I was just craving it so much and so much acceptance that I wanted. And now I'm just like, I'm fine. It's myself, my dog, my husband, and some wine. I'm good. Like, go away. Please don't come and visit me.
Yeah.
I'm great.
So how did you get to that place then of realizing I don't need to fit in, stuff that? What happened? Because I'm guessing it wasn't just like one day you woke up and it's all good.
No, it was many years, as I said. Girls-only schools are ruthless places. So it was many years of bullying and many years of insecurities. And I think where it really stopped was after high school when I went into university and I was away from those people. I was also raised in a very small town, one of those towns where everybody knows everybody's business, and like, it's the worst. Please don't raise your children in small towns. Don't do that to them. Take them to big towns. Let them experience things. You think you're helping them, you're not. But who am I to say? I'm not a parent. But all I'm saying is I think university was better because I was away from that group. So I was forced to really evaluate who am I without these people and who do I want to
Right.
be. No one knows me here. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
fresh start. Anything that I was holding on to that I had, before, someone might have said something to me like, oh, Carol, I was always the only person who is from Latin America at my school. So it was like, oh, you're weird because you're not like South African.
Hmm.
And when I went to university, that was the thing that made me cool. People were like, oh my gosh, there's someone here. And then someone would be like, oh, I'm from Brazil. Oh, I'm from the Netherlands.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that made me cool. Instead of it being the thing that I was bullied for,
Right.
that I didn't quite fit in, it was like celebrated. It's like, oh, great. Tell me about your culture. Tell me about this. So that was really nice. It was also great because as much as I love my mom is a narcissist, and she's the world's best mom when she chooses to be.
Right. Right.
And it was nice to be away from that environment and realize that I don't have to walk on eggshells all the time. I can just be and be happy. And that was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Like your body had time to catch its breath. And it was like, well, what do we do with all this energy now? So yeah, that was kind of where the discovery, if you can call it that, came.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided I like how this feels and I am never going back. It's like someone who probably shops at like Louis Vuitton or Gucci or whatever it is, or flies first class. You can never go back to Coach. You can never go back to economy. I mean, they have real knives and forks up there and a bed. I can never go back. Ever.
What's the Pringles slogan? Once you start, you can't stop,
There you go. You can't. I mean, I've tasted it now. You can't take it away from me. I have to fly first class.
Yeah. I can't relate to the first class bit. I haven't done that yet, but I can relate to once you step into who you are, you can't turn back from that. It's never the same. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on why society at large places so much importance on fitting in. Why are we so obsessed with that?
I think it comes down to our primal instinct of living in community. Like, way back when we were in the Stone Ages, we had to survive. You had to be part of the flock. You had to be part of the group. If you went against the group, you'd likely die. So I think deep, deep down in our DNA, somewhere, again, not a scientist, but it's what I believe, in our DNA, there must be something that tells us if you stray from the group, bad things will happen.
Right.
So we resist that. And also, we're constantly told if you are, if you step away from the group, you get all these labels at it that are never positive. It's always like rebel, maven, rule breaker. Oh, you're walking on the dark side. Why can't we have nice things? Oh, she's by herself. She's having a good time. Why is it always so negative? So we grow with that in our mind. It sticks with us. And then other people chirp in your ear because, they've also been taught the same thing. And in their defense, I think in a weird way, they're trying to help you. They're like, listen, friend, don't go. Stay in the group. Stay in the safety. But what they don't realize is by keeping you here, you're not reaching your full potential.
Right.
And it's really scary. Like someone asked me the other day, like, why I started my business. And I know we'll talk about that, but like, it's fear. Fear keeps you from stepping away from the group. Fear keeps you from doing things that you know in your heart of hearts you just need to do. But it's this debilitating fear of the unknown, of the what ifs, that you're just like, oh, I can't.
Do you think, I'm forming thoughts as I say this question, I haven't thought about it before. Do you think we're born with that fear, or do we learn it?
Okay, I'm going to get very woo here for a second.
Yeah,
I think we're born with the fear. I think we're born with the fear. I once had a lovely session with this energy worker lady, and she said to me that there was moments during my mom's pregnancy where she felt guilt and fear and those emotions. And those trapped emotions are in me.
Mm.
And now I'm not saying, hey, I'm here to take accountability. I'm not saying like I'm the way I am because of some person. No. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to shift blame. But I do believe that the environments you grow up with, you're naturally like a sponge.
Yeah.
If you grow up with in an environment where everybody's constantly shouting and screaming and this, you pick up on that. Like your body stores that energy, that trauma, that fear in your body. And it materializes in different ways, whether it's anxiety, whether it's actual illness, whether it's like, you know, an ability to not connect with people. It's something. It always shows up as something.
Yeah.
And I do believe that if you don't release it, a part of it does go to the next person because it's in your DNA, it's in you. So when you create life, of course a part of it has to go. It's why I probably wear glasses. My mom wears glasses. It's genetics. It's in there.
Right.
So if simple things like that can be passed down, why not more tangible things like fear? No, I definitely believe
It's an interesting take. And it's almost, this is where science perhaps can't quite explain it all, right? I think there is this innate fear, but also, you know, I'm an ex-teacher and I've taught from, you know, the littlies all the way up to high school. And you see as very young kids or toddlers, there seems to be less fear and more of an attitude of giving things a go. Of course they are scared of things. There's fear there, right? But then as they get older, they learn the rules. This is how you do it. And it's good to do this. It's bad to do that. Failure is bad. Oh, you can't do that. And it's kind of like we are conditioned. We are groomed to have this fear. It's like it does control us. And I would love to know what role fear has played for you, because you weren't always an entrepreneur. So take us back to when you worked in hospitality. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and the journey.
Oh my gosh. I think to go back to that time, it was the most exciting time, but it was definitely filled with fear. It was definitely filled with uncertainty. It was my first proper job. You know, I was an adult now, had a job. It was great. I think because of how I was raised, and I was a big people pleaser back then. I still sort of am, but with my own boundaries, I people please with the people I choose to people please with.
Right,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, the people who have earned that special level of love from me, I got you. I'm going to give you all of it. Other people, no. You don't get that. You don't get that. Yeah. But back then I was a big people pleaser, and I really, whenever anything was given to me, because it was a corporate environment, it would be like, oh, Carol will do it. Oh, Carol will do it. And I was like, okay, yes. Yes. I never said no. Ever said no. It was not a word in my vocabulary back then. I was like, how dare I say no? You know, these people are paying me to be here. They're giving me a job. Like, wow, how cool. Like, I need to make this work. Like,
yeah,
you know? So I kept justifying the reasons for not saying no and normalizing the environment that I was in. But truly, anybody else walking past could have seen that this was a sinking ship and I was pretending like it was not. I was the only one who couldn't see it. You know that a story, The Emperor's New Clothes?
Yeah.
Where the emperor is not wearing anything and everybody pretends they can see the lovely garment? It was me. I was the emperor.
Shit. Yeah.
I was walking around butt naked. Everybody could see it. Except for me. That's what was happening. That being said, I will say there were some lovely human connections that I made during that time. It wasn't all bad. The human connections were great. The actual work and capacity was bad. The me needing to prove myself was bad. And it comes from that of like, I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to like lose this opportunity. I want to do the best. I want to move up in the world. And with that, I just became so burnt out. I was exhausted. I was dying. Literally, like mentally, I was dying because I was living past everything that was important to me. Anything that I valued, I was living past it. I was missing holidays and Christmas and times with friends. I was working on Saturdays. I was working till like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And yet I got to the office at like 6 a.m, you know?
Wow.
It was just awful. But I thought, if I can just survive it, if I can just survive it, I can get to the next step. I can
Right.
just get a promotion. I can just move into a little bit of a leadership role. I can just. So again, I was justifying the terribleness of it all. Luckily for me, yes, luckily for me, there was this guy I was dating for like 9 years, and he happens to be my husband now. And he proposed to me. And I mean, it took him 9 years, like I always joke. I think he wanted my blood
He
type or
wanted to
something.
make
I don't
sure
know.
he was sure. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 9 years. He had better be sure at that point. Like, what else do you want? A kidney? I'm not sure. Anyway, so this guy proposes to me, and that's really when it hit me, if I'm quite honest, because I call it, in lots of movies, they like to do this where the protagonist, like their whole life flashes before them, and they have, like, they kind of stop, and it's like this montage of things happening, right? That's exactly what happened. Rosie.
Wow.
I cannot kid you not. I saw my entire life in that moment, and I saw it the way I was living, and it was not fetching my littles from school. It was not being around for them. It was being the kind of wife that got home at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It was living past my husband. It was having 2 days a week to connect with someone that you're meant to spend your whole life with. 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. And then it all hit me so much, and I was like, no, absolutely not. This cannot be it. There must be more. And in that moment, I didn't know it back then what I would do, but I knew that I wanted a lifestyle where I had choice, a lifestyle where I had the choice to choose and choose something that was good for me. I didn't know yet what it was going to be, but I knew that it needed choice. I also saw that the path that I was on, although a great career, I mean, nothing wrong with people who work in hospitality or corporate. Like, if it's for you, it's for you. Great stuff. I just knew that for me to get to the level of freedom and choice that I wanted, I would have had to be in my 40s, in my 50s. And by then it's too late.
Yeah.
I don't want to take selfies on a beach at 50. I take selfies on a beach now.
Yeah.
I want to go, exploring and hiking now. I want to like live now. I don't want to live in my 70s where my body physically won't allow me to do those things. And I just have to like watch other people do it. How sad.
But that's the norm.
Yeah. I just didn't want it. I just didn't want it.
I hear you. I hear you.
Like, I don't look like a rebel, but secretly, it's like I say to people, I'm not really a rebel. I just like nice things.
Right.
Is that too hard to ask for?
Right.
Just like nice things.
Yeah.
Why not?
So you had this moment.
Yeah.
Your husband proposed. Your life flashed before your eyes. You're going, oh my God, like there has to be more. This isn't who I want to be. But you're working in hospitality. Sounds like you had no boundaries. Constantly working, saying yes to everybody, underpaid, overworked.
Yes.
But now you're running an agency, a marketing agency. So, you're the CEO, you're doing your thing, right? How did you get there? Like, that's quite a gap.
That is quite a gap. How I got there is, again, I went down a kind of a traditional route. I thought, okay, well, I need to get a certification. No one's going to listen to me if I don't have a piece of paper that says I can do it. And, actually I've learned that being an entrepreneur, you don't need a piece of paper. You just need to do what you say you need to do really well. If you can do what you say you're going to do really well, you don't need a piece of paper. I didn't know that back then. But it's nice that I went and got a piece of paper, because in that I just felt like I needed to learn it before I could do it.
Right.
It's one of my values. It felt out of integrity for me to just be like, oh, I can do this, but I have no notion of doing it. Like, that's just not part of who I am.
Yeah.
So I went and I did a course on, first I did one on like social media, and I learned about it. But the part that really fascinated me was the data-driven decisions that were being made when you did paid ads or paid marketing. And I was like, this is so cool. You're not just making decisions on, the client has this thought, so let's execute this campaign, or, oh, they think this, so let's do it. It's like the data is telling you what to do. It's like, this is what your audience wants. Let's create more. This is what they don't want. let's not show it to them again. And that felt like so tangible and something that I could really help people with.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yes, let us do that. So again, I went and got another piece of paper that gave me a certification for to be a Meta certified ad specialist.
Okay.
And with that, I first started, if anybody's listening, I went and I looked at people in my community and I said, hey, I just got this piece of paper. I noticed that you have a business. I would love for you to be my practice client. And I was very open and I was very transparent. I said, I've never done this before. I've followed a course, of course, and I can take what I've learned there. And if you are happy for us to learn together, we can do that. And my first 5 clients were all people that I was very transparent with. And I told them, hey, you're my 5th client. You're my 3rd client. You're my 2nd client.
Yeah.
That being said, don't think I didn't charge them. Oh, I charged them.
Good. That was my next question. Yeah.
I did charge them.
Good.
But I was very honest with them to let them know that, listen, I'm learning as I'm doing. So this is not going to be smooth. I mean, I'm going to try, but it's not going to be smooth. So that it wasn't a false representation of myself.
Right.
And I really had fun with it because I got to do many businesses. Like now I work strategically only with like kind of coaches or people in like that learning education kind of space. But before that, I mean, I had a lady who was a lash tech. Wow. Loved her. I had a person who was a personal trainer. Loved her. Great results as well. Like we had so much, a lady who did hair extensions. Also loved her. But I did start finding things that I loved. One, I noticed very quickly I loved working with women. I just had a good vibe and a good rapport, and I was like, so much easier. Sometimes with men, it was a little bit challenging, and I feel that the challenging came from a place, and again, if there's any men listening, this is not personal, don't take it personal, but sometimes the men that I encountered felt like they needed to show me that they were in charge. They needed to express that and be dominating and be all-encompassing, like, this is how we're going to do things. And I don't resonate well with that. It's like, no. I don't want to
thank you.
With this. No. But it was still very professional, and it was still like, we got the job done, but I could definitely sense that it wasn't the same experience as when I worked with women. So very quickly, that's how I started to understand my ideal client and who I wanted to work with. And then more obstacles came, like, scaling and taking too much on in the beginning. In the beginning, those fears that we spoke about again, those boundaries, they crept up because now I knew I could get good results. So once again, I wanted to give everybody good results. Everybody who came, I said yes.
Yeah. I'm nodding and I'm going, because I relate. Been there.
Yeah. And I mean, we've all been there. I mean, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you've all been there when you've taken something on and you're just like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I've got so many deadlines and I don't even know where to start. And you're just like spinning. So the big next wake-up call came from me when I got my first chargeback. I remember like it was yesterday. I don't even, like, my phone was here, I dinged, and it said negative $500 PayPal. And I was like, what do you mean negative? What do you mean negative? So what I didn't know back then is that if your account is on 0 on PayPal, because obviously you've taken your money out of it, and then you have a chargeback, they'll just put you in a negative. And like, until you put that money back, you can't use that account.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? And then, funny enough, I had to actually go and prove to PayPal, because this is not a PayPal rant, but I had to prove to them that I'd actually done the work and that this lady had just decided, she's going to charge back and give me the thing. And then I was actually given the money. But that's also where I learned other boundaries, like, okay, we just can't say yes to everyone. We need to have stronger contracts. We need to have periods in place. So I definitely learned as I was doing, and every knock, although it was hard and it felt like, it pushed me forward. It pushed me forward.
How do you deal with those knockbacks? I feel like it just comes hand in hand with entrepreneurship. Stuff goes wrong all the time. There's good
Yeah.
stuff, but stuff goes wrong all the time.
All the time.
How do you deal with it?
I very much try to not make mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, okay.
I also try to be very purposeful with my interactions. I used to be the kind of person who would wake up in the morning, check my phone,
Yeah.
and then my anxiety level would already peak because I would see all that I have to do. I would see a bad email. I would see a client freaking out about something, or they're freaking out. But in my mind, I know it's like, it's not a big deal. Once I explain it to them, they're going to be fine.
Right.
But it's that initial shock of like seeing
Yeah.
that gets you.
Yes.
Right? And then you sit with that feeling the whole day and it's like, oh my word. So now I'm very strategic. It's like I prep myself for bad news.
Yeah, right.
It's like I play this game with myself where I don't have my emails open the whole day. Just fun fact. I don't have a tab with it open. I will have it open and check it at strategic times and be like, okay, this time I'm checking it, this time I'm checking it, so that I am not constantly being bombarded with when something goes wrong. I'm choosing, this is my problem solving time. This is the time I'm going to take to see if there's a problem and go there. I have clients on Slack. I don't have Slack notifications. I purposely don't have Slack notifications because I have to go in there to see what's happening. And that's a little less of a blow. Maybe it's just me, but that little red notification thing, it is the worst because there's so much unknown behind that message.
Right.
It got to a stage, Rosie, this is a real thing. Like, I don't even think I've ever shared this with anyone, but there was a time I was so fearful at what was at the end of a message that I would say to my husband, this client has messaged me. Please read it. Don't read it out loud. Just read it. And then let me know, is it good? Is it bad? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Because I physically just couldn't. I was like, if I take one more blow today, I'm done. I'm going to have to sit like a starfish on the floor and then no one's going to get any help from me.
Yeah.
You know, little things like that helped me. And he'd be like, no, it's not that bad. They're just asking for normal stuff. And then I'd be like, okay, great. Then I'd read it. And to get yourself to that point, imagine all that like my body must have taken, that I was like fearful of that. So I'm not new to those feelings. I've just had to learn how to cope with them.
Right.
And find little things that help me. I do lots of things to trick my brain that we're having a good time. I saw this on, what is this book called? It will come to me in a sec. But basically it's like each room has a purpose, and in that purpose, you do only that thing. But you can also trick yourself that you're having a great time.
I was doing some sums the other day, and can you believe that it costs me $2,760 every year to keep this podcast going? I was a bit shocked by that figure. So if you're enjoying this episode, can I ask if you'd send me a tip? There's a link in the description. It'll help me cover these costs. And you know why that's important? Because then I can focus on the stuff that matters, like finding awesome guests and producing awesome episodes for you guys. So if you could help out, that would mean the world to me. And if not, that's okay. Appreciate you watching. Make sure you're following and share it with a friend. Let's get back to the episode.
I always have like perfume on my desk. I always have like hand lotion on my desk. And when I'm in stressful situations or I'm having difficult situations with clients, I may like before the call spray so that I can smell something sweet and nice and like it calms me. I may take a little bit of the hand lotion and like while we talk, I may go like this because it helps me to feel like it's gonna be okay. It's like I'm centering myself despite of what is happening.
Right.
These little things I've had to do to trick my brain that we are safe, we are fine. It's not that deep.
Yeah, because it is a feeling of you don't feel safe. That's exactly what it is, which is illogical, really. We're safe.
Right.
But
we're fine.
We feel very unsafe. And it is like going into the fight or flight. And I love your simple tricks there, like spraying some perfume, rubbing some lotion in your hands. I might have to try that out. because I get really worked up about this stuff. If I'm anticipating an email, like an important email, and I see it come through,
Yeah.
I feel my heart racing. Sometimes I'll avoid opening it, sometimes for days. And then I open it and usually it's okay. But it's just the stress I put my body through. It's like, oh my, this is not helping anybody.
Yes.
It's kind of validating to hear that you still have fear, but you have learned how to manage it. That gives me hope.
Oh, no, definitely. You have to learn how to live with it. I don't think it's ever going to go away, because I think like how we began at the, like, I do think it's in my DNA. I think for me to get it out of here, I don't know, we'd have to get into some really woo stuff, and some people are going to have to talk to some people upstairs or in other realms, or I don't know where, and do some things. But until I get that, it's still here.
Yeah.
So it's a part of me. And one thing I remember journaling, and this hit me really hard when I journaled it. And I said, I'm thankful for all the Carols that have come before me that have made this version of me. Because that person who lives in that fear is part of me. She's helped me be brave. It's because I know fear that I know there's a better thing, that I know I don't want to be there, that I have to search for something, that I have to fight for something else. So I'm still thankful for that version of me. You know, she's brought me here.
Yeah. Look at her with kindness, right?
Right?
Don't hate on past Carol. Yeah, right?
No, she was doing the best with what she had.
Yeah.
Giving yourself that grace to be like, listen, it sucks, it's hard, but we're going to get through it. That's all I try to do. That's all really I think all of us try to do as humans.
So tell us about your first marketing agency and how that went. Did it go according to plan? How did you even start that? That's a huge thing to do, from employee to agency. So tell us how it actually went. We've touched on the fear, but there's a bit of a story here.
Yes. So like I said, I got some practice clients, and those are the people I had. My first agency was called Best Ads, and it was it's still like my legal business name, but now I'm trading as something else. But that is my first little baby. And in that agency, I did everything. I wrote this was before ChatGPT. This was before templates. This was before, like, you had to Google and like scrub the internet for assistance. Like, this was pre that time. And I was busy doing it all. I was the graphic designer, I was the web developer, I was the SEO person, I was the copywriter, I was the VA, I was the owner, I was the marketer. All the roles, they led here.
Yeah.
So although I could do everything, I learned very quickly that I shouldn't do everything. So my first agency, because I did everything, we had very high highs and very low lows. We had people who are getting amazing results because I could give them all my attention, and then people who are falling through the cracks. That's just the reality of it. And enter when we start to get to the beginning of when we see that the pandemic is like, okay, here it's going to really hit. So I did that agency for about like a year and a half by myself. And then I worked with my business partner, my ex-business partner. And she is also a lovely lady. We had the same issues. She was doing everything on her own. I was doing everything on my own. So then we were like, what if we did everything on our own, but together?
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, let's do it together. So it was fun. We quickly found our rhythm. She enjoyed doing more of the sales. I enjoyed doing more of the back end stuff. So with my role, I got to build our team out. I did a lot of the hiring. I did a lot of SOPs, payments, a lot of the back end things that you don't see, giving the deliverables to the clients and making sure the team was doing it properly. So that was all me. Her role was more, again, networking, finding opportunities for us, and like sales. That's her department. It was all great. I mean, we had some really high highs. This was the first time we hit the magical 5K months. This is the first time we were like, yay! And like, we each hit 5K. So we made even more. We had 10K. And we were like, yay! It was so great. And we had people that we had paid. We had employees at this point. So it really started to feel like a real business. And I'm not saying my first agency wasn't, But this one just felt like, okay, she's a big girl. Okay, she knows what she's doing. In that, we really niched down and we focused. She also had a lot of clients that came from coaching, and I had expressed how I enjoyed working with women. So that's how we stepped into that niche. We built our agency. It was great. It was lovely until we both decided that we had very different dreams or very different outlooks on life. It was weird because before, when we started, we thought that our differences would help each other.
Yeah.
But it's like we were both pulling at different ends. So she wanted to go this way ultimately, and I wanted to go this way ultimately. And I think a little bit of me was happy to support her dream. So I was like, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. Until I knew I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
What you're offering is not what I want. And to put it very simply, she had a very big dream, which I mean, I know in my heart she's gonna reach this. She wants to make like $1 million and create this massive like agency and like big company and thing. I don't want that.
Right.
I wanted something that gives you enough to have the freedom of choice that I wanted, to have my littles, to have my husband, to maybe we go on vacation once or twice a year. I don't need $1 million thing. I don't need 500 employees. Like, that's not going to bring me joy. Like, no, I want time. That's what I want. So ultimately we had to part ways, but we parted okay-ish. So that was good. And then it really hurt because I was so attached to this actual business.
Yeah.
I thought I failed. I really thought I failed, Rosie. Because I went from, making a comfortable income every single month to having employees to, being very busy because I was always doing something in the back end, to everything went away. Just disappeared. And it was like there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And I felt like I was so broken. I felt like I didn't have purpose. I felt like my whole identity was that business, was this business owner, and who am I now without it?
Right.
And it sucked. It really sucked because it brought me all the way back to when I started in my corporate days. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm right back where I was. Like, I'm back to being this scared little person. And it was really hard. It was really hard. I started to go to therapy again and work through it. That was a tool that I used to get me out of it. But there were some very dark days. There were days I was just like, I would just not sleep. I didn't like my mind. I now know kind of why. I listened to this tapping meditation the one day, and it said, trying to quiet a racing mind. And it said, do you realize that your mind is racing because it's trying to help you? It's trying to solve these problems for you so that you don't have to do that tomorrow. It's trying to be like, if we could just solve them now, tomorrow you'd be amazing. Or later on, you'd have so much peace. But what your mind doesn't realize that if it doesn't slow down, we're just doing this. We're just going. And it doesn't stop. So I didn't have the clarity back then to know that it was my mind trying to help me, but I just couldn't stop. I just felt awful. And one of the things that my therapist said I should try is, she said, you need to do something practical. You need to get your hands dirty and do something practical. Now, Rosie, between you and me, I'm a liker of things. I ain't doing something practical. What do you mean doing something practical? Girl, no. Do you see these nails? Practical. I think not, this thing. No. But she said, Carol, you have to do something practical. You have to do something for yourself. So I said, okay, fine. I'm going to do something practical. And I took our spare room, which is now my office. And I had been playing with the idea of making it an office or keeping it as a spare room. And I said, no, I'm going to make an office. Someone wants to come visit me and go stay at a hotel. Yeah. No. No. Do you have to stay here? No. And that was the first little thing I did. The second thing that I did is I painted the whole room by myself. Now, it might not seem like a big deal, but I had to sand stuff and I had to pick stuff and I had to go find the color and learn about oil paints and watercolor based, and I don't know what other things that were there. It was very intimidating, if I'm quite honest. I used a drill for the first time. It was like pretty cool stuff to me.
Yeah.
And I built my little safe space. I put up all these posters by myself, and I found the sayings that I wanted. I picked out all the furniture, every single piece of furniture in this room I picked out. And I put it in here intentionally by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, I realized what she was doing. She was helping me to see that I can build things again.
Yeah.
And it was so humbling when I looked back and I saw I created this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need anybody's help. I also became very codependent on this person, if I'm quite honest, like my old business partner. And I just felt like I can't do this by myself. I mean, I wasn't doing it well the first time. So now that again, I don't have help, how can I do this? But if I was capable of creating this tiny little space, I could do anything. And so we built agency number 3.
Tell us about agency number 3. Yeah.
Agency number 3.
It's still going, so that's good.
It's still going. I mean, look, the other two, they never really stopped. I just think they were like versions. Like they were better iterations. I wouldn't ever call the other 2 failures because they didn't fail. One became bigger and the other one became something else.
Right.
So I don't think it's a failure. That also took me a while, but I don't think it's a failure. I think it's just iterations of it. That being said, this agency is quite fun because it's taken the best of everything I've learned. It has the best people that I've met along the way in terms of team members helping to support our mission to move forward. And honestly, I'm very picky now. I have the best clients because I choose the best people to work with. Because it's people who, like me, they're in purpose, they're on a mission. We're here to make it work. Yeah. And I love that. I love that I can say, I never look at my client calls and go, oh my gosh, it's Rosie. Oh, girl, this lady. This flippin' lady. Yeah. She's just going to come here. No, I never have that. And I've purposely done that because I love my clients. They may not know it, or maybe they might think it's weird. I really care for them. I care for their success, and I care for if they do. The other people, I'm sure I cared to some degree, but now I just feel very invested, and I just want good people and good energy. Mm-hmm. And that's really been important to me. And what I've learned about everything that we've done is that it's not only one thing that makes you successful. Where in the other agencies, it was very focused on how are the ads doing? What are the numbers doing? This version, I'm very focused on how are you doing as a business owner? How can I support you? And how can ads amplify that? Because ads only bring people in. They bring in the traffic, right? They put you in front of the right people. But everything else has to work, right? What is your click-through rate? What is your open rate in emails? Are people showing up to your events? Are people becoming followers? Are they liking your content? So it's important to just see that it's not just a lead. It's a person that we need to take on this journey. And that's what I love so much about it. That's why I feel so happy about it all the time.
Yeah, you sound very values and purpose driven. And it's like you've found this perfect recipe in the agency now. And it also sounds like you're a lot better at boundaries because you are very fussy on what clients you take on.
I learned that if I'm not fussy about the clients that I take, I cannot give you my best. I'm actually doing you a disservice by taking you on a client and only giving you 70% of myself when I know I should be giving you 100, but I physically cannot because you give me the irks.
Oh, I feel that. So what's your advice to early stage solopreneurs, business owners? There's this very real pressure of you need money. And so the tendency is to say yes to every single opportunity that comes across your desk.
Right.
Do you think it's necessary to do that, or can you be more intentional and still make money?
I would say give yourself a timeline.
Okay.
For the next 3 months, I'm going to say yes to everything. For the next year, I'm going to say yes to everything. Because you don't know what you don't know. By closing yourself off and thinking, this is precisely where I need to be, there is a whole world of things in entrepreneurship that you're missing out.
Yeah.
How my service has evolved from one thing to be so holistic only happened because I pushed myself to be in those conversations, to try that thing out, to learn about something else. I mean, like I said, I started off with one certification. I'm like collecting them as we go. I'm like, they're like Pokemons at this point, you know, like, can I catch them all?
I love that.
So it's important to figure out what you like and what fits in, but you'll only know that by trying, right? So, but give yourself that boundary of, okay, I'm going to try and I'm going to say yes to everything that comes my way for the next 6 months. Then after that, I'm going to reevaluate and say, hey, I didn't like working with that type of client. I didn't like doing that type of service. That service, although I love it, it is time consuming and it doesn't give me much money. So I'm not going to do that again. You know? And then one thing, I'm going to give everyone permission here so that you can keep it in your pocket. This is permission you can keep in your pocket for wherever you need it.
Permission slip. Yeah.
This is your get out of jail free card, permission slip as signed by Carol. Be sure to use it whenever you need it. It is okay to say no. That's the first thing I'm going to give you permission to do. And the second one, it's okay to let go of people who don't need to be in your life, whether they're a client or whether they're something else. Because I'm telling you now, there's going to be people who are going to have a lot to say about the decisions you've made.
Yeah.
And as one of my favorite person, RuPaul, said, if they're not paying your bills, don't pay those bitches no mind.
Letting go of people is like, that's been a big part of my journey, and I find it so hard. But I also think it's necessary. Do you have a magic wand? Like, how do we make it easier? Can it be easier? How do we navigate this? Because I think we hold ourselves back if we don't learn how to let go and move on when it's time.
I think with that, it comes again down to our new favorite word, boundaries. I learned that I was being a better friend to some people than they were being to me. And I'm not saying it's a tit for tat, but if I'm the friend that's constantly calling you, Rosie, I'm the friend that's constantly like, good morning. I'm the friend who's like, hey, do you want to have a coffee? And you are never the one who initiates. We need to set a boundary here. I'm going to wait.
Right.
I started doing that with some people in my life, and I was like, I'm not going to message this person until they message me. Because if we are truly friends, and again, you may think, Carol, that's a bit childish. That's okay. I'm happy with the way I'm doing it. But if we are truly friends, as you say we're friends, and we talk every other day, you should feel some kind of weirdness when I haven't texted you.
Right.
You should be like, where is Carol? What's happening? Oh, okay, maybe she needs some space. But after you've given me my space, there should still be something like, I have not spoken to this girl in a month. Is she alive? But if you find that you do not miss me, and I find that you have not texted me, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
I get it. Life happens. I have friends like, for example, my friend Michelle. We just have this friendship where like, we will not talk for like 3 months, and then she'll call me, and then we talk for like 4 hours. I kid you not, for like 4 hours. And we catch up on everything. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. I'll see you in another 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we know that, right? We know the expectation. You know the level of friendship. Some people, they're your friends because you're keeping that friendship going, not because they're actually your friends.
Yeah. It's a hard one. What if someone says, oh, but Carol, I can't. I've known them since I was a kid. Or their family.
I mean, look at my mom. My mom's a narcissist. I still love her. She's like I said, she has days where she's like the best mom to me. And I love her truly, and we have great conversation. But there's days where she crosses a boundary and she pushes me, and I'm like, hey, I no longer want to participate in this conversation. I'm going to go now. And I hang up the phone. And that's the end of that conversation, because I need to protect my peace.
Yes, protect your peace. And part of how you do that is boundaries. I feel like that's a theme in this conversation. Boundaries.
I mean, it is hard. Look, some people will always have a soft spot for them.
Right.
I'm not
right.
saying like bandage them and throw them out. Of course, they've played a role in your life. Of course, it's going to be a bit of a loss. But understand that there's a lot of flippant people in this planet. Okay? Let's just be the next person. Don't worry, it might be someone better.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. And also we've got limited time. Why waste it on someone who's sucking energy out? You know those people who they just kind of take.
You have a conversation with them and you feel so drained after that conversation. That's because they've like ripped, and they, funny enough, they're always like so chipper and great.
Yes.
Why? Because they've gone and poured all their baggage onto you, and now you're there like, oh my gosh, when is someone going to pour into my cup? When is someone going to take this from me? They never do that. It's very interesting.
Relationships are hard. Boundaries are hard. But I want to ask you the famous question on this podcast. It has been tradition.
Oh.
What does freedom mean to you?
Choice. Freedom means choice. It means the ability to choose. The reason I value that so much is I came from, so my family is originally from Cuba, which is a socialist country, if you didn't know. Things there are not great. And I just knew I never wanted to go back to that. I never wanted to not have choice. Now that I live like in South Africa, and I've been, honestly, I know I've been very privileged for my parents to give me the life they gave me, for me to grow up the way I did, the type of schools I went to. And that all allowed me to have choice. It allowed me to choose, do I go to university? Do I not go to university? It was never it has to work for me.
Right.
And I want to continue living my life like that. For me, freedom is definitely choice. When I got that job and I felt like so much burden, it was because I felt I didn't have choice. It was because I felt like I can't leave here. If I leave here, I'm a failure. I don't have money. I'm going to have to go back home. I'm going to have to tell these people who have just put me through university and so graciously paid for my studies that I'm like, well, I don't know. It didn't really feel nice. I don't know about your parents, but my parents are not the lead with your feelings parents. You can't tell them, oh, I feel burnt out. You can't tell them that. They're like, oh, drink a coffee. You'll be fine. You don't have energy, drink a coffee. You know, they're like, it's not how it works for them. So choice is definitely the thing I value the most. And choice allows you to do so much. Such a freedom.
Yeah.
Such a luxury to get to choose. Wow, how lucky we are.
Right. Yeah. And I want to go back to this. When you were in the hospitality job, you just said you felt like you had no choice. So how did you choose to quit when you felt like you had no choice? How did you get through that?
I'm gonna tell you something, which once again, only my husband and I know. So you're going deep today, Rosie.
Yeah.
When I had that flashback, right, of the whole world passed in front of me and I just knew I just couldn't go down this road again, I made a choice that I was going to quit. And I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my husband, my fiance at the time. I wrote my resignation letter. Actually, I didn't even write it. I Googled resignation letters that are polite. Sorry, HR, but that was me. And I sent it. And I remember it so clearly. After I sent it, the lady in HR, she phoned me and she said, are you sure? And I said, yes. And she said, you know, I'm going to have to tell your manager. And my manager was like attached to me. It was like, I was like her child, but also her employee, but also like the best employee. Like she was very attached to me in a weird way, but also in a nice way. Like she was a nice person, but it was like a lot. Like it felt like I was letting her down. Because she's like, you know, I'm going to have to tell someone. And I was like, I know. And her office, like my manager's office was in front of me and like my desk was here. And it was like I could see the internet waves where HR's office was on this side and HR sent the message and the email went like this into my manager's office and I could see her face when she saw it. She was like, and then she looked at me and then she looked at it again. She looked at me and she picked up the phone and she was like, Carol, can you just come to my office quickly? I was like, yeah, no, sure, I can come. And I knew.
Ooh.
And I just said, you know what? I value everything you guys have done for me, and you guys have really given me so much space to learn and so much space to be independent and take on things, but I can't do this. And then I said to my fiance that, by the way, again, I lied. These people are sending me to do a course and they said I could do it from home. So I'm going to not go home to my mom. I'm just going to go and live with you while I do it so that I can be in a better space, in a better environment, you know, so I could just get it done. He didn't think anything out of it until he was like, when are you going back to work? Like, how long is this course? I'm like, oh no, I'm still doing it. I'm still figuring it out. You know, I'm still doing the course. Then I started getting practice clients. He's like, is this part of the course? Is
what's going on?
Like, are they asking you to like hire people for them? Like, what are they doing? It's weird. And I was like, yeah, still part of the course, still part of the course. Until one day I had to give back the company laptop for my last day. And Joel was like, oh, let me guess, it's part of the course.
He's onto you.
And I was like, well, I think we should talk. And that's when I told him the truth. And my husband's very analytical. He's an engineer. So he came at it as like, okay, so what's the plan? What are you doing? What does the next 5 months look like? What do the next 3 months look like? And I'm very like, I'm doing something. Like, I don't know, but I'm doing it. And because I hadn't thought that far, it felt very overwhelming. It felt like, I actually told him, please do not tell anyone, because if you had this reaction, what's everybody else going to say?
Yeah.
So that's really why I felt so trapped in that job. I felt like I didn't have choice, and I just did it anyway. Because I knew, like you said, tomorrow is not promised. It's so, sometimes I think of us humans, we're very silly creatures. Like, we are in such delulu that we think we're going to live for the next 20 years when literally your next breath is not promised. But then again, you can't live in that state of like, you know, you're constantly going to die, because that's not a way to live. But also that, knowing how fragile and how precious this gift is of life, I think pushed me to ultimately do it, because I was like, I can't. Literally can't.
Yeah. And that's something that's always on my mind. You know, I lost both of my parents before they hit retirement age. They worked hard, they saved their money, they were going to travel when they were retired, go around Australia, ride motorbikes. It's all taken. And that's just like, I might not live. I don't know how long I'm going to live. So I'm just going to enjoy. I'm not going to live in fear, or at least try my best not to. I'm going to be very intentional with the decisions I make and how I spend my time. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's like, well, okay, I've got a decision to make. Which one is going to bring me closer to the kind of person I want to be?
Facts on facts on facts. No, and I think, you know what? I think you who have actually lived some of my fears, like, kudos to you. I think you are stronger than you know and stronger than you think. And again, this is Carol just giving you this in case you needed it, because I know you didn't, but just in case you can have some extra encouragement. No. I really like this. One of my favorite YouTubers always ends her videos saying, if no one has told you today, Rosie, you are enough. You are doing enough. And constantly, sometimes, and I just need to say to myself, Carol, you're enough. You're doing enough.
All need to hear that. Yeah. And on that note, Carol, you are enough. You are more than enough. You have been such an amazing guest. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been great. So glad I met you. It was just a few days ago, and here we are. We've recorded an episode.
I love it. I think this will be a very fun interview. Honestly, I haven't had so much fun like this in a while. Like, thank you. Cool. Thank you for opening the space for me. Thank you for reminding me of things I think I needed to hear. I appreciate it more than you know.
Thank you. Same back to you. And we will talk soon.